Anne Sullivan, also known as Annie Sullivan, was born on April 14, 1866, in Feeding Hills, Agawam, Massachusetts, to Irish immigrant parents. Her early life was marred by tragedy and hardship. Anne's mother suffered from tuberculosis and died when Anne was just 8 years old. Her father, who struggled with alcoholism, eventually abandoned Anne and her siblings, leaving them to fend for themselves. Anne herself faced significant challenges from a young age. She contracted trachoma, a painful eye infection, at 5 years old, which severely impaired her vision. This would mark the beginning of a lifelong struggle with her eyesight. After her mother's death and her father's abandonment, Anne and her younger brother, Jimmy, were sent to the Tewksbury Almshouse, a notoriously dismal institution for the poor and destitute. Tragically, Jimmy died shortly after their arrival, leaving Anne completely alone. Despite these adversities, Anne's formidable spirit and intelligence caught the attention of the almshouse's inspector, who helped her gain admission to the Perkins School for the Blind in Boston in 1880. At Perkins, Anne underwent a series of surgeries which slightly improved her vision, and she excelled academically, demonstrating a particular aptitude for language and communication. Anne's life took a monumental turn when she graduated from Perkins in 1886. Shortly thereafter, she was recommended to the Keller family in Tuscumbia, Alabama, who were seeking a teacher for their 6-year-old daughter, Helen Keller. Helen had become deaf and blind following an illness as a baby, and her parents were desperate to find someone who could educate and communicate with her. Anne arrived at the Keller household in March 1887, and she immediately began to work with Helen. Using an innovative approach, she spelled out words on Helen's hand to teach her to connect objects with their names in sign language. Their breakthrough moment, famously depicted in the play and film The Miracle Worker, occurred at a water pump, where Helen connected the concept of water with the letters WATR that Anne spelled into her hand. This breakthrough was the beginning of a lifelong communication and education process. Anne's teaching methods were revolutionary and highly personalized to meet Helen's needs. She spelled each word of their conversation into Helen's hand, gradually expanding her knowledge and understanding of the world. Under Anne's tutelage, Helen learned not only to communicate but to read Braille, speak, and eventually write. Sullivan's dedication to Helen's education was profound. She accompanied her to the Cambridge School for Young Ladies and later to Radcliffe College. And Sullivan's impact on Helen Keller's life was immeasurable, and their relationship evolved into a deep, lifelong friendship. And continued to work with Helen well into her adult life, supporting her as she became an internationally recognized advocate for people with disabilities. And married John Macy in 1905, but her primary commitment remained to Helen. And Sullivan Macy's health declined in her later years, particularly her vision, and she died on October 20, 1936, from complications related to a coronary thrombosis. Her legacy, however, lives on through her groundbreaking work with Helen Keller and her contributions to the education of people with disabilities. Anne Sullivan remains an iconic figure in American history, celebrated for her resilience, innovative teaching methods, and the profound difference she made in Helen Keller's life.
Dramatic early life. Anne's early years were marked by extreme adversity, including the death of her mother, abandonment by her father, and the subsequent death of her brother shortly after they were sent to an almshouse. These tragic events set the stage for a life story that combined deep personal tragedy with incredible triumph. Eye disease in childhood, and contracted trachoma at just 5 years old, which severely impaired her vision and caused her great pain. Despite multiple surgeries, her vision problems persisted throughout her life, adding another layer of challenge to her role as a teacher for someone who was blind. Instantaneous breakthrough method. The breakthrough method Sullivan used to teach Keller, which involved spelling words into her hand to associate words with objects directly, was revolutionary at the time and formed the foundation of Keller's future successes. The rapidity and effectiveness of this method were both unusual and extraordinarily impactful. Lifelong commitment. Sullivan's dedication to Helen Keller was profound. She was much more than a teacher, acting as Keller's interpreter and constant companion for nearly 50 years. This lifelong professional commitment and personal bond are rare in teacher-student relationships. Marriage amidst professional life. And Sullivan married John Macy, but her marriage did not alter her dedication to Helen. Her relationship with Helen remained her primary focus, illustrating an unusual balance and prioritization of professional and personal commitments. Teaching despite personal disabilities. Sullivan's own struggles with her vision make her achievements as a teacher even more remarkable. Teaching and communicating effectively with Keller while managing her own disability highlights an extraordinary level of resilience and adaptability.